I never thought I'd be the person who destroys someone's life in a courtroom. But she gave me no choice. My name is Vikram. I'm 34 years old. I work as a forensic accountant for a mid-sized firm in Mumbai. Numbers are my language. I read spreadsheets the way other people read novels, looking for the story hidden in the data. I find patterns. I catch discrepancies. I expose what people try to hide. That's my job. That's what I'm good at. Well, I'm not good at. What I was never good at is seeing the lies people tell me to my face. I met Priya at a mutual friend's engagement party 3 years ago. She was standing near the dessert table, laughing at something on her phone. I remember the sound of that laugh. Warm, uncomplicated, the kind of laugh that made you want to be in on the joke. I walked over. I said something stupid about the gulab jamuns being too sweet. She looked up, and her eyes, they were this deep brown, almost black in the dim light of the banquet hall. They held mine for just a second longer than necessary. You're analyzing the desserts now? She said. What do you do for a living? Audit bakeries. Close enough, I said. I'm an accountant. She smiled. Not the polite smile people give strangers. A real smile. The kind that reaches the eyes. An accountant, she said. I could use someone like you. I can't even balance my checkbook. That was the beginning of everything. We dated for 8 months before I proposed. It wasn't extravagant. I took her to the same banquet hall where we met. The engagement party had become a running joke between us, and I got down on one knee in the parking lot next to my beat-up Honda City because I was too nervous to wait until we got inside. She said yes. Of course she said yes. She cried. I cried. The security guard watched us from the gate and probably thought we were insane. We got married 6 months later. A small ceremony. Her parents, my parents, 20 close friends. Nothing fancy. Priya said she didn't want a big wedding. She said she just wanted me. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? For the first 2 years, everything was perfect. Or at least, everything seemed perfect. We rented a 2-bedroom apartment in Andheri. I took the local train to work every morning. She worked from home as a freelance graphic designer. We'd have dinner together every night. She'd cook, I'd do the dishes, and then we'd watch something on Netflix until one of us fell asleep on the couch. It was ordinary. It was comfortable. It was exactly what I thought marriage was supposed to be. But looking back now, and I mean really looking back, with the clarity that only comes after the truth smashes through your living room window, there were signs. Small ones. The kind of signs you dismiss because you don't want to see them. She started going to the gym more often, for sometimes 5 times a week. She'd leave at 6 in the morning and come back by 8, showered and changed, smelling of expensive shampoo I'd never seen her buy before. New gym has better facilities, she'd say, and a steam room. You should try it sometime. I never did. I'm not a morning person. The idea of waking up at 5:30 to lift weights sounded like torture. Then there were the phone calls. She'd take them in the other room. Whispered conversations that ended abruptly when I walked in. She'd smile and say it was a client. Just a difficult client who needed hand-holding. I believed her. I always believed her. The biggest sign, the one I should have caught, was the money. I'm a forensic accountant. I notice money. But I didn't notice that our joint savings account, the one we'd been building for a down payment on a house, was draining faster than it should have been. 3 locks, gone in 6 months. Small withdrawals, 5,000 here, 10,000 there. Always on days when she went to the gym. I told myself it was business expenses. Freelancers have cash flow problems. She'd pay it back. She always did. I was wrong about so many things. The betrayal. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays are my longest days at work, month-end reconciliations, and I usually don't get home until 9:30 or 10. But that Tuesday, my laptop crashed. The IT guy couldn't fix it before end of day, so I packed up early and took the 6:15 train home. I texted Priya to let her know I'd be early that maybe we could order from that new Chinese place she'd been talking about. She didn't reply. That wasn't unusual. She often put her phone on silent when she was working. I got home at 7:15. The apartment was dark. Her gym bag wasn't by the door. Her running shoes were gone. I checked the bedroom. The bed was made. The bathroom was empty. The kitchen was clean. She'd obviously left in a hurry, a half-empty coffee cup still sitting by the sink. I called her. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. I told myself not to worry. Maybe she'd gone to meet a friend. Maybe the gym had a late class. Maybe her phone died. I ordered the Chinese food anyway. I sat on the couch. I watched the clock. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. The food got cold. I didn't eat. At 10:45, I heard the key in the lock. She walked in wearing clothes I'd never seen before. A black dress that was too nice for the gym. Heels. Makeup that was slightly smudged at the corners of her eyes. She smelled different. Not the gym shampoo. Something floral. Something expensive. Vikram, she said, and her voice had this strange quality. Half surprise, half something else. Something I couldn't name at the time, but now recognize as fear. You're home early. Where were you? I asked. My voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes from holding something very fragile and knowing it could shatter at any moment. The gym, she said. I told you they have these new evening classes now. Zumba. It's actually really fun. You should. I called the gym, I said. The words came out before I could stop them. I hadn't called the gym. Not yet. But I was going to. And the look on her face, the way her smile froze, the way her eyes flickered to the door and then back to me, told me everything I needed to know before she even opened her mouth. You what? She said. Her laugh was wrong. Too high. Too fast. Vikram, you're being paranoid. I was at the gym. Ask anyone there. I will, I said. Tomorrow morning, first thing. I'll ask them to show me the sign-in sheet. I'll ask them to check the CCTV. I'll ask them if Priya Sharma was there tonight from 6:30 to 10:45. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, in that black dress, with her smudged makeup and her expensive perfume, and looked at me like I was a stranger. And then she laughed. It wasn't the laugh I fell in love with. This laugh was sharp, cruel, the laugh of someone who'd been caught and decided the best defense was to go on the offensive. You're going to audit my gym attendance now, she said. That's what this marriage has become. You're going to treat me like one of your spreadsheets. Where were you, Priya? Out, she said. With a friend. A client. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Why, she snapped. Because you own me? Because I need to account for every minute of my day? You're not my father, Vikram. You're my husband. Or at least, you're supposed to be. She walked past me into the bedroom. I heard the closet open. I heard hangers scraping against the metal rod. I sat on the couch. The Chinese food was still on the coffee table, cold and congealed. I stared at it. I stared at the clock. I stared at the wall. I didn't sleep that night. She didn't either, I think. I heard her moving around in the bedroom, her phone buzzing with notifications she kept silencing. At 4 in the morning, I got up. I went to the kitchen. I made coffee. I sat at the table with my laptop, and I did what I do best. I started looking. I didn't go to work the next day. I called in sick. I told my boss I had food poisoning. He believed me. I've never taken a sick day in 4 years. I spent that day, and the next, doing something I'd never done before. I investigated my own wife. It started with the bank statements. I pulled up our joint account. I pulled up her personal account. She didn't know I had the password, but she'd written it down in her notebook once when she was setting up automatic bill payments, and I'd seen it. I never looked. I never had a reason to look. Now I had a reason. The withdrawals were there, just like I remembered. Small amounts. Regular intervals. But when I cross-referenced them with her personal account, I found something else. Deposits. Large ones. 50,000, 75,000, $1.5 lakh, all deposited within the last 4 months. Where's that money coming from? I check her email. She'd left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. A mistake she'd never made before, but she'd been distracted lately, distant, forgetful. I told myself I wasn't invading her privacy. I told myself this was my marriage too. I told myself a lot of things that day. Her inbox was clean. Too clean. No spam. No promotional emails. Just work correspondence and the occasional message from her mother. But her sent folder told a different story. Dozens of emails to an address I didn't recognize. arjun.mehra@email.com. Short, brief, cryptic. Same place. 7 p.m. Can't make it Thursday. Friday. He thinks I'm at the gym. Don't text. I love you too. That last one. I love you too. Sent 3 days ago. At 11:47 at night. While I was asleep in the next room. I read it 10 times. 20 times. I read it until the words stopped making sense. Until they were just shapes on a screen. Until my hands stopped shaking and my breathing returned to normal. Then I read the rest. There were photos. Not explicit. Not obscene. Just intimate. A selfie of her at a restaurant I didn't recognize. A picture of 2 hands on a table. One of them hers, the other man's, a watch on the wrist that looked expensive. A photo of a hotel room. The headboard, the lamp, the generic painting on the wall, with the caption, "Our spot." I saved everything. Screenshots. PDFs. I created a folder on my desktop called Evidence, and I organized it by date, by type, by relevance. I was an accountant organizing a fraud case. I was a husband watching his marriage die in real time. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more. I needed to know who he was. I needed to know how long. I needed to know if there was anything else, anything worse, that I hadn't found yet. I started with the watch. The watch in the photo. It was distinctive. A Rolex Daytona. Steel and gold. The kind of watch that costs more than my annual salary. I searched the email address. arjun.mehra@email.com. It took me 3 hours, but I found him. Arjun Mehra, 42 years old, married, 2 children, a senior partner at a law firm in Bandra. His photo was on the firm's website. Confident smile, salt and pepper hair, that same watch on his wrist. He was her client. She designed his firm's website 6 months ago. I'd helped her with the invoice. I'd proofread the contract. I wanted to throw up. I kept digging. I found his wife on Instagram. Her name was Sunita. She posted photos of their children, their vacations, their anniversary dinners. She looked happy. She looked like I probably looked 3 weeks ago before I knew what I know now. I took screenshots of everything. Her posts. His profile. The comments they'd left on each other's photos. Innocent on the surface, but now, knowing what I knew, they felt like coded messages. Great party last night. He commented on a photo of her at a friend's birthday. The same night Priya told me she was working late on a deadline. I cross-referenced dates. I built a timeline. I mapped every lie she'd told me against every photo, every email, every bank transaction. It was meticulous. It was devastating. It was the most thorough piece of forensic work I'd ever done. And I did it all while she was in the other room, watching TV, acting like nothing had changed. On the 4th day, she noticed. "You've been home a lot," she said over breakfast. She was making toast, spreading butter with the casual ease of someone who had no idea her husband had spent the last 72 hours dismantling her life piece by piece. "Not feeling well," I said. "Stomach bug. You should see a doctor." "I will." She kissed my cheek before she left. Her lips were warm. Her perfume was the same expensive floral scent from that night. I didn't flinch. I didn't react. I just watched her walk out the door, gym bag in hand, and I knew she wasn't going to the gym. I followed her. I took an auto rickshaw. I kept my distance. She took a taxi to a hotel in Juhu, a mid-range business hotel, the kind with a lobby full of potted plants and businessmen in wrinkled suits. I watched her walk in. I waited 10 minutes. Then I walked in too. The receptionist didn't look up. I sat in the lobby behind a fake ficus tree, and I waited. 45 minutes later, I saw them. She walked out of the elevator first, adjusting her dress. He followed a minute later, straightening his tie. They didn't touch. They didn't look at each other. They walked out of the hotel separately, like strangers who happened to be leaving at the same time. But I saw the glance. I saw the micro smile. I saw the way her hand brushed his as they passed through the revolving door. I took a photo, just one. A blurry shot through the glass. It wouldn't hold up in court, but I didn't need it to hold up in court. I needed it to hold up in my heart. I needed to know, with absolute certainty, that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't paranoid, that the woman I'd loved for 3 years, the woman I'd married, the woman I'd planned to grow old with, she was a stranger. I went home. I sat at my laptop. I opened the evidence folder. I added the photo. I added a note with the date, the time, the location. Then I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg for answers. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I was going to do what I do best. I was going to build a case. I spent the next 3 weeks preparing. Not emotionally. I was already numb by then, operating on autopilot, going through the motions of a marriage that was already dead. I prepared legally, strategically, methodically. I hired a divorce lawyer. Not just any lawyer, the best family law attorney in Mumbai, Rajesh Khanna. His retainer was 3 lakhs, which wiped out most of what was left in our joint account. I didn't care. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about justice. I gave him everything. The bank statements, the emails, the photos, the timeline. He looked through it all, page by page, his expression never changing, and when he was done, he looked up at me and said, "Mr. Sharma, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen a lot of cases, but I've never seen evidence this thorough from someone who isn't a professional investigator. I'm an accountant," I said. "I find patterns." "You found more than patterns," he said. "You found a case, a strong one." He explained the strategy. In India, divorce by mutual consent takes 6 months. But divorce on grounds of adultery, which is what we were filing, can be faster if the evidence is compelling. And my evidence was very compelling. But he had a better idea. "We could go to court," he said, "and we'd probably win. But it would be messy, public, expensive. It could take years." "What's the alternative?" "The alternative," he said, leaning back in his chair, "is that we let her think she's winning. We let her believe you've forgiven her, that you're willing to move past this, that you still love her. And then, at the exact right moment, we show her what we have. And then we give her a choice, a generous divorce settlement, which, given the evidence, she has no legal right to demand. Or we take this to court and let a judge decide how much of her affair becomes public record." I understood. It wasn't about revenge. It was about leverage. It was about using the truth as a weapon, not to destroy her, but to protect myself. I agreed. For the next 2 weeks, I played the part of the forgiving husband. I told Priya I'd been stressed at work, that I'd overreacted, that I was sorry for doubting her. I suggested we go to couples counseling. I bought her flowers. I held her hand during dinner. She bought it. Or maybe she wanted to buy it. Maybe she was so relieved that I wasn't going to make a scene that she didn't question my sudden change of heart. We went to counseling. We sat in a therapist's office and talked about communication and trust and how stress affects relationships. Priya cried. I handed her tissues. The therapist told us we're making good progress. I recorded every session. With my lawyer's advice, I made sure the recordings were legal, consent-based, documented above board. In those sessions, Priya admitted things, small things, that she'd been distant, that she'd been spending money without telling me, that she felt trapped in the marriage, She never said the word affair. She never mentioned Arjun's name, but she admitted enough to corroborate my timeline, to show a pattern of deception. My lawyer was thrilled. This is gold, he said. She's building our case for us. The night before the reckoning, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the lights off, holding a folder of printed evidence, and I thought about the man I'd been 3 months ago. The man who believed in love, who believed in marriage, who believed that if you were good to people, they'd be good to you. That man was gone. I wasn't sure when he'd disappeared. Maybe in the hotel lobby, maybe in the lawyer's office, maybe the moment I read, "I love you too," on a screen at 4 in the morning. But he was gone, and in his place was someone harder. Someone colder. Someone who understood that justice isn't about fairness. It's about consequences. The next morning, I made breakfast. I made her favorite, aloo paratha with extra butter. She came into the kitchen smiling, still in her nightgown, her hair messy from sleep, and for a second, just a second, I saw the woman I'd married. The woman who'd laughed at my stupid joke about gulab jamuns. The woman who'd cried when I proposed in a parking lot. Then I blinked, and she was gone. "Sit down," I said. "I need to show you something." She sat. I placed a folder on the table between us. I opened it. I started from the beginning. The bank statements, the email screenshots, the photos, the timeline, the hotel photo, the counseling recordings, which, I explained, were legally obtained and admissible in court. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just presented the facts, one by one, the way I'd present a financial audit to a client. Clear, methodical, irrefutable. Her face changed as I spoke. The smile faded. The color drained from her cheeks. Her hands, which had been reaching for her coffee cup, went still on the table. "Vikram," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I can explain." "You don't need to," I said. "I already know everything. The only thing I don't know is how long." She didn't answer. She just stared at the folder, at the evidence of her own lies spread out like a deck of cards she'd thought she'd hidden. 6 months, she finally said. "It started 6 months ago. The website project. He was different. He made me feel. I don't care how he made you feel," I said. My voice was still calm, still controlled. "What I care about is what happens next." I slid a document across the table. My lawyer had prepared it. A divorce settlement. Generous, considering the circumstances. She'd keep her personal savings. She'd keep her design business. She'd get no alimony, no claim to my income, no share of the apartment, which was in my name, purchased before the marriage. In exchange, she'd sign a confidentiality agreement. No public statements. No social media posts. No contact with my family, my friends, my colleagues. And most importantly, no contesting the divorce. We'd file on grounds of irreconcilable differences. The affair would never appear in any public record. She looked at the document. She looked at me. And then, and this is the moment I'll remember for the rest of my life, she laughed. It was the same laugh from that first night. Sharp, cruel. The laugh of someone who'd been caught and decided that the best way to salvage her dignity was to pretend she was still in control. "You think you can just buy my silence?" she said. "You think you can threaten me with some folder of screenshots and I'll just sign away my marriage?" "It's not a threat," I said. "It's a choice. Sign the agreement or we go to court. And if we go to court, everything in that folder becomes evidence. Your emails, your photos, the hotel records, the counseling recordings where you admitted to feeling trapped. All of it. Public record. Available to anyone who wants to look." I paused. I let the weight of that sink in, including Arjun's wife. The laugh stopped. Her eyes widened. For the first time since I'd started presenting the evidence, she looked afraid. "You wouldn't," she said. "I don't want to," I said. "But I will. Because you didn't just lie to me, Priya. You stole from me. You stole money from our joint account, which, by the way, I've documented every rupee of. You stole my trust. You stole 2 years of my life. And now you're going to steal my reputation by making this messy in public? No, I'm not going to let that happen. I stood up. I walked to the counter. I picked up my phone. I opened the voice recorder app. I pressed play. Her voice filled the kitchen. From a counseling session. The one where she talked about feeling trapped. Where she'd admitted to spending money without telling me. Where she'd said, almost casually, that she'd developed feelings for someone else, but that it was just a phase. I'd recorded it. Legally. With her consent. That's admissible in court, I said. That's your voice, admitting to emotional infidelity at minimum. Combined with the rest of the evidence, a judge would have no trouble granting the divorce in my favor. And then it all becomes public. Your parents, your friends, Arjun's wife, his children, his law firm, everyone would know. She was crying now, silent tears running down her face, smudging the makeup she'd carefully applied that morning. Why are you doing this? She whispered. We could have talked. We could have fixed this. We could have, I agreed. 3 weeks ago, when I asked you where you were, we could have talked. When I found the emails, we could have talked. When I sat in that hotel lobby and watched you walk out with another man, we could have talked. But you didn't want to talk, Priya. You wanted to lie. And now the lying is over. I placed a pen on top of the document. Sign it, I said. Or don't. But decide in the next 10 minutes, because my lawyer is waiting for my call. And if I tell him we're going to court, there's no turning back. She sat there for a long time. The parathas went cold on the plate between us. The coffee steamed and then stopped steaming. Outside, a dog barked. A car honked. Life went on, indifferent to the destruction happening in our kitchen. Finally, she picked up the pen. She signed her name, Priya Sharma, the same name she'd written on our marriage certificate, the same name she'd embroidered on a handkerchief she'd given me on our first anniversary. She pushed the document back to me. She stood up. She walked to the bedroom. I heard her packing. I heard her crying. I heard her calling someone, probably Arjun, and whispering urgently into the phone. I didn't follow her. I didn't try to stop her. I just sat at the table, looking at her signature on the paper, and I felt nothing. Not victory. Not satisfaction. Not even relief. Just emptiness. The hollow, echoing emptiness of a room after the furniture has been removed. The aftermath of the divorce was finalized in 4 months. She didn't contest it. She didn't show up to the hearing. My lawyer handled everything. I sat in the courtroom for 20 minutes while a judge I'd never met before stamped a document and declared my marriage dissolved. I went home to an empty apartment. She'd taken her clothes, her laptop, her design books. She'd left the furniture, the dishes, the photos from our wedding, which I boxed up and put in storage the next day. I heard, through mutual friends, that she'd moved in with Arjun, that he'd left his wife, Sunita, the woman from Instagram with the happy photos and the anniversary dinners, that they were living together in a flat in Bandra, playing house while his divorce dragged through the courts. I didn't feel anything about that either. Not jealousy, not anger, just a distant, academic curiosity about whether they'd last. Whether he'd cheat on her the way she'd cheated on me. Whether she'd ever understand what it felt like to be the person sitting at home, waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. 6 months after the divorce, I got a call from Rajesh Khanna, my lawyer. You need to sit down for this, he said. I was already sitting. Arjun Mehra, he said. The man Priya was seeing. He's been arrested. For what? Embezzlement. From his law firm. 3 crores over 2 years. They're saying he forged signatures, created fake clients, laundered money through shell companies. I was quiet for a moment. And Priya? She's not charged. Not yet, anyway. But she was listed as a beneficiary on one of the shell companies. She received approximately 8 lakhs over 6 months. The exact same period as your withdrawals from the joint account. I understood. The money she'd been taking from our account. It wasn't for the gym, or for clothes, or for any of the lies she told me. It was for him, or from him. I wasn't sure which, and I didn't care enough to find out. What happens now? I asked. Now, my lawyer said, the firm is suing him for recovery. His assets are frozen. His bank accounts are locked. And his new girlfriend, your ex-wife, is about to find out that the man she left you for is broke, disbarred, and facing 10 years in prison. I should have felt something then. Satisfaction, maybe. The warm glow of karma finally catching up. But I didn't. I just felt tired. Thank you for letting me know, I said. There's one more thing, he said. The prosecution has requested your evidence. The bank statements, the timeline, the recordings. They want to use it to establish a pattern of deception, to show that Arjun has a history of manipulating people, of using relationships to cover his crimes. And if I say no, then they subpoena it, but they'd rather you volunteer. It looks better. And frankly, Mr. Sharma, it would help. It would help a lot. I thought about it. I thought about Priya, sitting in that apartment in Bandra, watching the man she destroyed our marriage for being led away in handcuffs. I thought about Sunita, Arjun's wife, who'd probably just found out that her entire life was built on lies. I thought about myself, sitting in an empty apartment, alone, but not lonely, damaged, but not broken. I'll send it, I said. Everything. I did. I compiled every screenshot, every email, every recording, every note. I organized it the way I'd organize a financial audit. Clear, methodical, irrefutable. I sent it to the prosecution with a brief cover letter stating that I was cooperating voluntarily and that I hoped it would help bring justice to everyone who'd been hurt. I never heard back from them directly. But 2 months later, I read in the newspaper that Arjun Mehra had been convicted on all counts. 10 years. No parole. The article mentioned his accomplice, unnamed, but described as a female associate who received financial benefits from a scheme. I knew who they meant. I wondered if she was reading the same article. I wondered if she understood, finally, that the man she'd chosen wasn't a better version of me. He was just a different kind of lie. I moved apartments 6 months after the divorce. I found a 1-bedroom in a quieter part of the city, closer to my office. I started going to the gym, not at 6 in the morning, but in the evenings after work. I met people. I made friends. I went on a few dates that didn't lead anywhere, and one that did, a woman named Ananya who works in publishing and laughs. It's been 2 years now. I'm happy. Not the kind of happy that ignores the past, but the kind that carries it without being weighed down by it. I learned something from that experience, something I think about every day. I learned that trust is a choice, and so is verification. I learned that love doesn't make you blind. It makes you choose not to see. And that choice, that willful blindness, is the most dangerous thing you can do to yourself. I learned that the truth always comes out, not because the universe is fair, but because lies are heavy. They accumulate, they compound, and eventually, the weight becomes too much to carry. Priya thought she could laugh her way out of accountability. She thought that if she mocked my suspicion, if she turned my concern into a joke, I'd back down. I doubt myself. I let it go. But I'm an accountant. I don't let things go. I find a discrepancy. I trace the pattern. I follow the money until it leads me to the truth. And the truth doesn't care about your laugh. The truth doesn't care about your excuses. The truth just sits there in black and white, in dates and amounts, in emails and photos and recordings, waiting for someone brave enough to look at it. I looked, and then I made sure everyone else had to look too. That's not revenge. That's justice. And justice, like every lie, has an expiration date. What would you have done if you'd found the evidence Vikram found, the emails, the photos, the bank records? Would you have confronted her immediately? Or would you have built a case the way he did? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if this story resonated with you, If you've ever had to choose between forgiveness and justice, hit that subscribe button. New stories drop every single day. You don't want to miss what happens next. This is Karma Chronicles. Every lie has an expiration date.